Hi class, in this video we're going to update our web form application to display information from our database. I found my database, the member database from chapter 14, so I'm going to copy it and I'm going to place it in a folder on my C drive. So let me create a new folder. And I'm going to name it C# projects, just like that, because remember casing matters. And then in that folder, I'm going to paste my database. So we're going to have a absolute path to that folder in our application, which of course is very, very bad, not good practice. But in the textbook, I'll show you further on how to take care of that, copying your database into a folder within your application called app data, which would be the correct way to handle it. We're going to do things this way first, just to start. Now, what I'd like to do is add our DataGrid, and I'm going to see, I don't think it's going to let me add the DataGrid in a meaningful way. But if you remember, we had all of our different view controllers that we could use with the database. I want to add a grid view. Now, what I want in this grid view is going to be my information. We could edit all of this information and all if we wanted to. Let's see, we'll just leave it like that. Now let's create our data, and to create our data, we're going to put a button on our form. And I'll put it right here. And this button is going to say show members. It will be BTN show. And I want to make sure it does not cause validation. No, because we just want to show our members from it. So let's put some code in associated with this button. First of all, to connect to our database, if you remember, we need to have our connection set up. And of course, we'll put everything within our try catch. Now we're going to be connecting to Microsoft Access. So our provider will be Microsoft.ace.oledb.12.0 semicolon. Now we're going to add more to that. After our connection string provider information, we're going to include our data source. Now our data source is that database we just put into our folder C# projects. And is that right? Nope, it is ACCDB. Looking at that old style. Now, after our database name, we can close out our C# statement. We don't need a closing semicolon in our connection string. Let's set up our connection object. Oh, remember we need a using clause, don't we? And of course we have to have that using clause no matter how our application is set up. We want our OLEDB. Where's my code? There it is. Just trying to make you a little C6. Sorry about that. Now we're going to set up our connection. And of course, we want it to use that connection string we just created. We're going to set up a new string to hold our SQL statement. And it's going to say select first name as first name. Fancy syntax here. Last name as last name. So we're just saying, instead of specifying the column name as the header, use this new name as the header. We want to select that from our member table. And we want to order by last name, ascending, and first name ascending. And our SQL statement with a semicolon and our C# statement with a semicolon. Now we're ready to use that SQL string. Let's see what we've got here. First of all, we need to create our command object. And then in our command object, we'll tell it, hey, your command text is in this string named SQL. And your connection is this DB connection that we've already created for you. Now remember, our command object is ready to run that command. Let's create a data adapter object to connect to our data. We're going to call it member data adapt. And it's going to be a new OLE DB data adapter. Now let's tell our data adapter to go ahead and execute that select command that it can find in our DB command object. Once it does so, we'll create a data set. Now it's complaining at us, and remember that's our using clause. Scroll all the way up, and our data adapter is in the data namespace. So our data set adapter name. So now we've got rid of those errors by adding that using clause. Now, whenever we're working with a data set, remember that it could contain multiple tables, and as we load those tables and columns, we can identify them. So we're going to say, hey, data adapter, use your fill method, and I want you to fill this member data set, and the table that you're going to be filling it with is called member table. Of course, we could give it a different name there if we wanted to, but we don't need to. Now we're going to take our DataGrid, grid view 1, and tell it its data source is equal to our data source, our data set. Now we want to bind that which is kind of like opening the database when we're working with a web application, but we have to bind it to our web application. Then we're going to update our label to say it's visible. which we need to add. And we're going to update our grid view to make it visible. So two things we need to fix. Before we do so, let's add our catch code. Grab that message. Okay, so in our grid view 1, we want to make it invisible, and we want to add a label for our members. And let me see what that is going to say. All right, let's go fix those. So right here, before our beautiful grid, we want to label. Down here, there you go. And this is going to be LBL members. Its text property is going to say current members. It's going to be invisible, so our visible is going to be false. And then I'm going to update our grid view and make its visible property false also. Okay, let's see how it goes. Let's run it. Okay. Moving around a little bit. Let's click Show Members. Could not find file. C:\C# projects. Let's see what I've got different. Oh, mine says member DB. So let me change that. And I'll just make it be member. Try it again. The select statement includes a reserved word or an argument name that is misspelled or missing, or the punctuation is incorrect. Well, let's take a look at that select statement. Let me check my database column names. I have last name, first name, so those look right. Oh, right there it is. So I need a space between parameters. So let's put a space there, and a space there, and a space there. Let's see if that helps. Show our members. Ah, there they are. So here's our current members, Ralph all the way down to Sarah. So we connected to our database. Great. Now in the textbook, they show you how to use a data source as a control. Really speed things up. Very neat. So make sure to take a look at that. And that's it for our web-based stuff. We'll be back to look at web services. Thank you.